Greetings. Today I'm at the Hoxton, the Apparel plant in Berlin for a great event my boss is organizing. I'm just working here as an assistant.
AGAM is the Association of Garment and Apparel Manufacturers of Ghana, right? So the purpose here is to talk about how they can become the next creative powerhouses, what potential is hindering to network and to create connections, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, dear honorables from the Ministry of Trade and Education from Ghana, Mr. Adiamah, from the Embassy of Ghana, and dear folks, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to be here with you today, and I would like to begin by sincerely thanking Beatrice and her team for organizing this and inviting me to this event. Your efforts in bringing us together around this important topic are truly commendable. As we highlight Ghana's unique position as a rising hub for sustainability and high-quality apparel production, I am reminded of how essential it is to create platforms like these. They give visibility to our industry and showcase our strength to the world. Throughout my career in education, law, and politics, and as an advocate to make the beauty of Africa
Busy.
Of that, when you look at Ghana, it was around nearly $130 million raised by Ghanaian entrepreneurs. So there is capital coming into Africa, there is capital coming into Ghana. I think it's not so much a question of is there capital or where is the capital. Also, when you look at this industry across the continent, so textiles and apparel, the growth rate projected is 5% year over year going into 2030 across the continent. So what are we talking about then when we're talking about investment in capital? From my perspective, so just a little bit of background for everyone, I lead an organization that promotes entrepreneurship for women of color across Europe. It's a pan-European organization. Many of the founders in our network have a migration background connected to Africa. And we do the work of mobilizing capital, so connecting entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, diverse women entrepreneurs across Europe with investors, whether that's venture capital or angel investments and syndicates. I also lead very quietly right now, but I plan to get louder, an angel syndicate that is focused on diaspora finance flowing into the continent across three kind of key pillars. So that's a little bit about my perspective or POV, where I'm coming from. That unfair competitive advantage and supply to buyers who are looking for high performance textiles and materials that they cannot find anywhere else. And that's how you're seeing some markets compete against those giants, right, that we're talking about. You truly cannot out-compete. But niching, when it comes to thinking about your storyline that is only yours, when it comes to thinking about potential innovation and ways to maybe even access investment for further innovation, right? These are the areas that I do think are really, both interesting and exciting and accessible in thinking about that story around investment.
Since we have listened to all these different perspectives,
And you, being in the industry also for over 30 years, from a business perspective, being into the industry at a time where it also needed a transformation, introducing H&M to the German market, being the ex-CEO of Esprit. I mean, you know how it was back then, 30 years ago, and where we are standing today. If you could give us a kind of summary, when you now have listened to, okay, where is Ghana standing? How can emerging apparel have become the next powerhouse of your perspective?
Yes. We all know that we are in rough water. It's quite difficult times. The industry is having a really tough time. You see a lot of insolvencies, you see a lot of startups failing, you see difficulties in financing, and you try to give an answer. When we hear all these different perspective points now here, where are we standing now in Ghana? What is a designer expecting? What should we provide to be kind of a good move into the market? Then you have the financing part, which is very important. And then you have, of course, perhaps a new kind of setup in terms of launching a brand through social media or with a good design approach. I mean, we have a very heterogeneous situation in Ghana. You have small companies, you have big companies, you have low end, you have high end. You have a very small entity. It's just in the starting phase. It's not like we have big players in Africa. They do hundreds of millions of export volume. Below 50 is not very much. And we have a lack of USP. What is the kind of imagination somebody has? Casita spoke about it already. There is not a clear picture. Everybody, when they hear Italy, you know exactly they are strong in fashion. If you hear about France, strong in fashion. Germany is not very strong in fashion, but Ghana is even less strong in fashion. So you have a good starting point. And I always think back to a nice story. One shoemaker told me once. He sent the two people to Africa and said, "Do you have a market?" And one was quite said, "No, nobody wears shoes. Forget about it." And the other said, "Nobody wears shoes. There's a huge market for us. You know, we can deliver shoes." And this is how you have to see it. You have to see it in that kind of possibility, or there is a big potential if you define yourself so clearly in the market. And of course we have all these very exciting perspectives, but the business perspective is always a bit boring.
If there's something like some bonus, because the salaries are so low compared to the standard of living in all these countries. For example, in Italy, an average factory worker earns about 1,800, 1,900 euros. In Portugal, it's about 1,000, 1,300 euros. In Germany, from 2,500, 3,000 euros. In China, it's somewhere around 600 euros. Sometimes in India, it's very, very low. So the Germans wouldn't mind paying a little bit more, knowing that when the check gets into the factory, the workers also get something out of it. I think this for me would be a very good advice for the story.
Arrey, I briefly add to that because I think this is actually on point. We were all talking about the USP that would be the storytelling. In the end, it is not about saying we have the better machines, because this is not the fact, right? It is not about saying we can do what China can do, right? But what's the competitive edge? What is the one thing that only Ghana can do, right? Good parties in December, maybe too, but what else, right? So there we see here a very traditional pattern. This is something that's not from China. This is traditional Ghanaian origin, right? And I think we need to find these spots where this only Ghana can deliver tradition is paired with the need in the market, obviously. And you will be the one, everyone will be like, I want to wear Arrey, full stop, right? So this is the other side of the story, to create demand. But I think this is actually the sweet spot. Where is the competitive edge? Because we, as you said, we cannot out China, and this is not what we're here for to do, right? It is about finding the spot, talking about it, loading it up, and delivering, right?
Maybe I will come to you, but I saw there's one question, so you can also add to what Adam has been Yeah, but there's one question.
Joachim Schirmacher from the German Fashion Industry Foundation. So we do a lot of foster young designers. I have only quite a lot of questions when I look to the history. So when you talk about machines, as far as I know, one who brings the whole system of production in was a Uniqlo. That they started from Japan, go to China, and then other companies followed. A lot of machinery in China is coming from Germany. We have a school, Hochschule Niederrhein, Mönchengladbach. A lot of technique and engineering are working in China, and so that has hit the right quality. I know from professors about color. So when Indian companies like to sell in Europe, they have the wrong colors because we have different light here than in India. In Germany, have different light than in Italy. And so that's the question, if you like to sell African design here, or if you like to produce for German companies, have German fashion companies a future? So that, I think that, as Edgar also said, there's a lot changing, and we can't take from the history the answers for the future.
Thank you. Maybe just to add to that, because you were asking, are we selling African fashion or German fashion? I think what we also need to understand when we speak of African fashion, it's a term. It means contemporary fashion made by Africans or by the diasporas, and it's wearable for everyone. Of course, we have also the cultural aspect in it, but the interest is to sell to a market that clearly says this is our need and we want it. Since we heard there is a niche, we have the sustainable scene, we have the boutique buyers, we have the Afro diaspora. So these are all target groups where we can now look in and tap in to find our way. And this is, I think, also a new way out, because as we know, to compete now with mass production, it will be a whole different story. That's why we were trying to tickle those target groups. It's recent.